before I speak to you all for 10 minutes, I want to ask you all, what's your answer to this very simple question? Who are you really trying to impress? Your friends, your parents, your teacher, your boss, society in general? Or maybe, just maybe, is it yourself? Everyone kind of think of their answer to this question for a second. Does everyone kind of have a rough idea? I personally struggled with my answer to this question for a large part of my life. But all I knew for certain is that I had to be perfect. I've always had this obsession with success. It's always been like a mosquito buzzing past my ear at every turn. When I was young and my teacher asked me a question, I wanted to give the best answer she'd ever heard. Or if I were to play hockey or football with my friends, I wanted to score more, run faster, hit harder than all of my peers. And I will admit, when I signed up to give this TED Talk, I wanted to do one better than everyone else. My desire to be perfect became targeted. As I got older, this image got clearer and clearer. I wanted perfect grades in every class. I wanted to play at a national level of hockey. I wanted to, what did I want to do? I wanted to be a lawyer and politician and buy my family nice houses and cars. My desire to be perfect became more targeted, luring me into the idea that perfection was in reach if I had goals that were measurable, quantifiable. In other words, my whole life, I've been setting myself up to be a complete and total failure. That's right. This version of myself wasn't something I was ever going to be. It wasn't something I could strive to work towards, because the goals I had set for myself were just simply unattainable. I, like many other people in this crowd, I'm sure, had fallen into the snapping jaws of an unhealthy self-image. So I decided to make a change. An unhealthy self-image isn't just a goal, it's an obsession. A system of conditional self-worth in which you are always one step away from success. With an unhealthy self-image, every small misstep, every slight imperfection became a source of immense shame and self-doubt. No matter how well I did in school or hockey or any part of my life, how impressive I became in the eyes of my peers, I was never able to live up to the one person that I wanted to impress the most, myself. I'm giving this TED Talk to all of you here today to teach you all how to avoid the same mistakes that I and many others my age have made, and to teach you all how to create your own self-image, one that you can sustain, one that allows for mistakes, but also growth, and allows you to take a real sense of pride. Because, at the end of the day, the version of yourself with value isn't the one that does everything perfectly, but the one that feels comfortable in its own skin. Think of an unhealthy self-image as a race. The starting line, milestones in your life that begin to feel like shortcomings. Your competitors, the people around you who begin to become points of comparison in the pursuit of unattainable goals. And the finish line, well, ladies and gentlemen, the finish line doesn't even exist. In today's digital generation, this self-imposed race to perfection forms quicker than ever before, especially when it comes to the way we look or the skills we pride ourselves on. According to various sources, over 66% of teenagers agree that visual platforms such as TikTok and Instagram give them lower self-esteem, while 46% agree that the same visual platforms give them a negative view of their body image. Additionally, 77%, that's this massive bar over here, feels as though social media leads to an increase in comparison to others. Regardless if the people under the surface of these statistics hide this insecurity under a smiling face or confident demeanor, half of our population, half people in this very room, are being negatively impacted by what they see online. Look, I'm not here to drone on and on about the dangers of social media, as I'm sure you've all heard it enough. Nor am I here to tell you to stop using TikTok and Instagram, seeing as I myself spent more hours doom scrolling on these apps than I care to admit here on stage. Sorry, Mom and Dad, we're the obvious. What I am here to warn you about, however, is to remain aware of the subconscious influence that modern media has on your self-image. As much as we want to be the celebrities that pop up on our screens, we're not. We're our own people with our own values, beliefs, and identity, and it's important not to forget that. Another thing I'm sure we all struggle with is worrying about what other people think of you. We've all had it happen before. You were really proud of yourself or something. Maybe you tried wearing a different outfit to school, or you got a higher grade on your test than you normally would, or you handed in that presentation for your boss just a few minutes early. At the peak of your confidence, you hear it. What are you wearing? That's all you could score? Why would you even think to do that? All different kinds of negative connotations that riddle us with self-doubt. But think about for a moment what taking these connotations really means for your self-esteem. Are you even creating your own self-image, or are you just creating an image that you think will make you perfect in the eyes of other people? The truth is that we tend, ironically, to surround ourselves with people like this, because we are drawn by their self-image, their confident projection. But in reality, the people who give you criticism like these struggle with the same internal criticism as you. However, the real anguish lies under the surface of an unhealthy self-image. As the name suggests, the most dangerous part is that this image isn't something physical or tangible, but something completely contained within the constraints of your own mind. With an unhealthy self-image, this is something that I struggled with for a large part of my life. No matter how well I did in hockey or football or school or any part of my life where I wanted to be the best, internal and external criticisms have continuously shaped the way that I viewed myself. A good grade became a reminder that I didn't get a better one. Scoring 4 or 5 goals in a hockey match just made me angry that I didn't score more or go to the higher team. It completely ruined my self-confidence, completely destroyed every milestone for such a large part of my life. So I was looking to move on to the next milestone, the better milestone. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what a negative self-image does to a person. It's not just about losing confidence, but the emotional detachment from your achievements. Another issue is that a negative self-image creates emotional isolation. Your peers begin to become benchmarks. You begin to view them as something you need to pass, driving every relationship into this competitive state. Sometimes it gets to the point where you can't even be happy for your friends and their accomplishments because all you see is one more thing down the line that you failed to do. So, essentially, we're, again, creating a race with no finish line, racing against people who don't even know they're competing because they never even entered this competition. All of this whole simulation, just to wear yourself down. Now, throughout the speech, I understand that I've been referring to the concept of self-image with primarily negative regard. But this doesn't have to be the case. Self-image in itself is not inherently a negative concept. It simply refers to the way in which we view ourselves, which naturally comes in many different shapes and forms. I think it's equally important for me to share with you all how I've created my own self-image, one that I believe is more sustainable, one that I believe allows for a real sense of pride in your accomplishments, because you're turning this race into a journey. Firstly, stop racing against other people who don't even realize it's a competition. Self-image is called self-image for a reason. It's not a comparison or a competition or something you need to win. In healthy form, a race to self-image is something self-centered, allowing you to take pride in your accomplishments and removing the competitive aspect of what we perceive as success. Secondly, practice self-compassion. I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, treat others how you want to be treated, but the opposite also applies. If you can look around you and recognize how impressive the achievements of the people you compare yourself are, why can't you do that for yourself? Any sustainable self-image begins with the premise of self-love and appreciation, removing the notion that your milestones are just a starting line for your race, or just a step towards perfection. Lastly, it is crucial that we all set sustainable goals. For me, this meant getting a passing grade on my next math test, rather than acing every test I've ever done or every test I will do just because I know someone else who can. Because, ladies and gentlemen, perfection in its typically perceived form simply does not exist. It's to be without flaws, limitless. But I have some bad news for you all. We're just humans. And this threshold is currently not one we are capable of crossing. Your goal should therefore be set at the ceiling of your capabilities not the ceiling for the theoretically possible. This creates a finish line for your race that you decide, allowing for a real sense of accomplishment moving forward in your journey to perfection. Ladies and gentlemen, if we practice these three things, not as a privilege, but as a basic discipline, we set ourselves up for something an unhealthy self-image simply does not leave room for: a real sense of pride. At the end of this speech, when we all go home, I want you all to look in the mirror and see someone you're proud of. Not because you think they're perfect, but because you know that they're doing the best they can. Thank you.